Hi friends, welcome back. Before we get into this, two things. First, I guess this is kind of a face reveal, not face reveal, since this voiceover is set to a bunch of non-chronological clips of me riding. If you see this video and you know me, no you don't, okay? Thanks. Second, I want to make what I feel is a necessary disclaimer. What you're about to see in this video is not something that I'm advocating that others do with their money. It's truly peak first world problems. Please trust that I'm incredibly aware of how expensive this sport is and how much of a privilege it is to be able to participate in it. Please also know that what I spend on this is a fraction of what it costs some people. People are out there taking out multi-$100,000 loans to buy horses. That will never be me, for multiple reasons, not least of which is that is a stupid financial decision in my opinion. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I've shaped my entire life around being able to do this since I was 8 years old. Almost every, my credit card debt would beg to differ, choice that I've made about school and my career and where to focus my attention in the last 2 decades, give or take, has been about fulfilling the dream that I had as a kid that my parents could never afford. I started begging my parents for a pony for my birthday and Christmas when I was 5 years old. I didn't ride at all for most of my teenage years because we couldn't afford it. I was 50-50 with my parents my senior year of high school when I could finally start again, and I took over paying for my lessons and all of my stuff myself when I was in college, and also spent most of those years sitting on everything that anyone would let me ride for free. I didn't get to make the dream of having my own horse come true for myself until I was 22, which is where this story starts. Every paycheck video you see me set aside $680 into my horse's checking account, because yes, he has his own checking account. What you don't see is a breakdown of exactly where that $1,360 goes every month, or the historical numbers that have gone into my ownership of him. I can't really be transparent about my finances or why my debt journey is the way it is without giving you that information, so it's time to do what no horse girl ever wants to do. Add it all up. Well, mostly. I haven't tallied up my general purchases for him because that would take forever and I don't have receipts for half of it. But more on that later. I've owned the beast, his name is getting censored on here too, for a bit over 6.5 years now. I bought him at the end of April 2019 with the intention that he'll be with me for the rest of his life. Given that he was 2 years old at the time and most horses live until they're around 30, give or take, that was one hell of a commitment to make. I'll probably have him until I'm around 50 years old myself, barring anything going horribly wrong, which we are not hoping for. My hope when I bought him was to turn him into my training level eventing partner, which is a level that I've never reached, but a goal that I set for myself. For those of you who are unfamiliar, eventing is a form of competition based on old cavalry tests, which involves 3 phases: dressage, cross-country, and show jumping. It's also notoriously one of the cheaper English disciplines. Show fees tend to be lower, and the environment and general camaraderie tends to be a lot more positive than it often is in other disciplines, at least in my personal experience. Turning him into that partner has not been without its difficulties, which is reflected in the amount of money that I've spent on him over the years. I'm going to cover 5 main annual costs for you in this video: board, farrier, veterinary care, supplements, and lessons, and also give you an estimated lifetime cost of 2 other categories: horse shows and tack and equipment. I bought my horse off the track as a failed racehorse for $1,500. Initial tack, equipment, and supplies purchases cost me somewhere in the region of $6,000, so we're going to call my initial investment $7,500 overall. At the time, I kept him at a barn that belongs to a friend of mine, which was very bare bones and cost me $325 per month and board. For the 8 months I had him that first year, that was $2,600. He was in a very basic shoeing setup, which cost me $120 every 6 weeks, or $720 that first year. He was not on supplements back then, and I wasn't taking lessons, so the only other cost was vet care, which totaled $839 for the first 8 months that I had him. It would have been less, but he cut his knee right before Christmas, and the cut got infected, so I got a $350 vet bill from him as my Christmas gift. Total spending in 2019, excluding his purchase and my initial investment into tack and equipment, was $4,159. The following 2 years, board was still the same, so another $3,900 per year. Farrier was the same too, so $1,040 per year. I put him on the wellness plan offered by our vet at the time, which covered his basic vaccines, dental care, and deworming, which was $670 for 2020 and $730 for 2021. In 2020, I started him on a basic supplement to help with his overall health. Basically, it's a equine multivitamin, which was approximately $120 every 8-ish weeks, or $716 total. In 2021, he continued on that supplement for another $724, and I also added a gut health supplement that was $150 every 2 months, or $900 annually. If you're keeping track at home, that brings my total spend up from my $7,500 initial investment to $11,659 at the end of 2019, $17,985 at the end of 2020, or $6,326 in spending that year, and $25,280 at the end of 2021, or $7,295 in spending. My annual salary in those years was $54,200, $56,800, and $65,000 respectively. You can see where this trend line is going. In mid-2022, my board was raised from $325 per month to $400 per month due to pandemic-related inflation driving costs up across the board. This brought my total board for the year to $4,350. On the advice of my trainer, who I had reconnected with but wasn't seeing regularly for lessons, I changed farriers and put my horse in shoes on all 4 feet, which brought my cost up to $150 every 6 weeks, or $1,300 for the year. The wellness plan from our vet was $813 that year. My horse was having some lameness issues that year that I no longer felt comfortable explaining away as side effects of him growing. And after he bucked me off twice, I had the vet out for some additional procedures that were not covered by the wellness plan. Chiropractic adjustments, blood work to check his vitamin E levels. Low vitamin E in horses can cause various things like muscle soreness, neurological symptoms, and poor hoof quality. And the injection of steroid into his sacroiliac joint. Those procedures cost me $1,572. When it comes to people, I think chiro is largely bullshit and you should be going to a proper doctor. Similarly, when it comes to my horse, nobody touches his back unless they're a DVM certified in equine spinal manipulation. This is not some random person who bills themselves as an equine chiropractor. It's literally our vet that does it for me. He was on the same gut supplement, which cost $900 in total that year. I pulled him off of his general supplement after purchasing it once for $126 and put him on a hyaluronic acid joint supplement, which was $165 every 4 months, or $330 that year. Total 2022 spending was $9,391, which brought my total spending to $34,671. In 2023, I moved my horse to my trainer's barn. My board didn't change at $400 per month or $4,800 per year. Farrier cost per visit stayed the same, but moved up to a 4-week cycle instead of 6, which brought the overall cost up to $1,950 for the year. I changed some supplements around and ended up spending a total of $2,212 on those. I also started taking lessons, which are $60 each for a 1-hour private lesson. I guesstimated my total at 45 lessons for the year, or $2,700, because I always miss some, and 2023 was a weird year on that front in general. Before I explain why it was a weird year, I want to address a question that I know some of you are probably asking. Why don't I just stop taking lessons until I paid off my debt? The honest answer is that I can't if I want to stay at my barn. Many facilities have a policy that your horse has to either be in training or you have to be taking regular lessons in order to remain there, because no one makes money off of board, and all the profit margin is in training. I've known my current trainer for almost 2 decades, since I was 10 years old, and she has done me so many favors, including paying my farrier bill when I was unemployed, that I will not ask her to take away from her own livelihood for a prolonged period of time just because I made some stupid choices. She helps me offset where she can, and that's more than enough. I can't even tell you how many free lessons I've had because we were, and I quote, just fucking around. And she also pays me to do the barn work for her while she's away, in addition to some other things like clipping horses. So it goes both directions. I also can't move back to my old barn because my old barn owner is now leasing a different facility, and her monthly board is almost 50% more than what I currently pay, which would completely eat any lesson savings that I would have. She also doesn't have any open stalls. So anyway, back to 2023. After I moved my horse to my trainer's barn, we got access to her sport horse performance vet, because that is a thing. She did an initial lameness workup on him, took a bunch of radiographs, and ended up injecting multiple joints, obviously with my permission. That first visit alone cost me $2,181, and we knew it was a baseline to get him comfortable so that we could revisit in the future after he went into proper work and we could see what we had after he got stronger. I had a few months of 2 lessons a week in support of that effort. He still wasn't right about 6 months after that visit, so we did another lameness exam that July. And via ultrasound, we discovered that he had the signs of chronic ligament strains in both hind legs, although thankfully nothing that pointed to the ligaments fully tearing at any point. For any horse people watching, he was diagnosed with chronic bilateral proximal suspensory desmitis. That visit cost me almost $1,500 between the ultrasound, sedation for the ultrasound, cold laser rental, and all the drugs to keep him calm for what followed. He was in horse jail for what was supposed to be 6 weeks, except for daily walks with me, but about 4 weeks in, he spooked while I was leading him, nailed me in the ribs with a hind foot, and put me in the hospital for 2 nights with a broken rib and lacerated liver. I wasn't allowed to ride for 8 weeks, so no lessons, and then we had about a month once he was also cleared to go back to work, where we were riding on our own, just so that we could both get back into shape. In the end, we went about 4.5 months without taking any lessons. I was not asked to leave over this because my trainer makes exceptions to that policy for illness and injury. All told, between those visits and some additional lameness check-ins, radiographs, chiro, and routine vaccinations, I spent $5,185 on vet bills in 2023. This brings my total spending for the year up to $16,847 and total lifetime spending to $50,938. I was making $85,000 that year. If I really wanted to be mean, I could add in my own hospital bills as related expenses, but we're not going to do that. Thankfully, I now work for a company where I can get both accident and hospital indemnity insurance for like $10 a month, and my non-copay out-of-pocket maximum is only $1,500. Hopefully, I'll never need to take advantage of that, but it does add peace of mind in the hellscape that is the American medical system. For those wondering, a couple of CT scans and 2 nights in the trauma unit with nothing more than some fluids and a blood draw every 6 hours earned me $60,000 in hospital bills. Insurance paid about $20,000 and I paid a few thousand. God only knows what it would have cost if I had actually asked for pain meds or needed surgery of any kind. Back to the story. Board was the same in 2024 at $400 per month or $4,800 per year. My horse's shoeing package changed because we had to fix the angles of his feet in order to prevent further ligament strain or tearing, so that ended up being about $210 every 4 weeks, or $2,730 per year. I estimated 45 lessons again, so that's another $2,700. I changed his supplements around yet again due to frustrations with the company I was ordering from, and also added a couple of things, which brought that annual total to $2,747. We took even more radiographs and injected his sacroiliac joint again, in addition to his routine vet care, including chiro, so veterinary spending ended up at $4,771. Total spending in 2024 was $17,748, and my total lifetime spending was $68,686. I was making just under $90,000 annualized for the first 4 months of the year, $95,000 annualized from June through August, and then moved to my current job in September, which resulted in a raise to 6 figures. In 2025, my trainer had to increase board to $450 per month, once again due to inflation. As of recording this voiceover, I have paid $4,950 in board for 2025. His shoeing package has simplified this year, so it's now $170 every 4 weeks, or $1,870 to date. I've probably taken 40 lessons this year, which puts me at $2,400 to date. Supplements are at $3,003 so far. We had to inject some more joints and take some more radiographs, and he also got Lyme disease over the summer, which I've talked about in prior videos. With all of that added to his routine care, my vet bills have been $4,888 this year. That shouldn't increase since we aren't supposed to see our vet again until January, but horses will be horses, so you never know. That brings my overall spending for 2025 to $17,111. Barring anything catastrophic happening, by the end of the year it'll probably be about $18,000. Lifetime spending to date is $85,797, and my salary is unchanged from last year. I haven't included what I've spent on tack and equipment or shows in these totals. I've probably spent $10,000 to $15,000 on stuff for him, some of which I did need, most of which I didn't, over the last 6.5 years. A portion of my credit card debt definitely comes from that. It was one of my go-to spending categories to try to make myself feel better when I was working my terrible toxic job. I also go on an annual trip with my best friend to Kentucky in April, and in years past, I have not been anywhere near responsible with my spending there. I just hand over my credit card. That was definitely a coping mechanism because even though I don't have the exact totals, I can pretty much guarantee you that I spent the least on our 2025 trip out of the 5 that we've been on, which is big surprise my first trip down there since I started my current job and my stress levels went way down. My plan for 2026 is to bring a set amount of cash to be my spending money and only use my credit card for our hotel. I've probably also spent about $7,500 on showing and registration fees over the last 4 years as well. So I don't think it would be an underestimate to say that I've spent somewhere in the region of $110,000 on him and horse-related things in total since buying him in 2019, as you can see reflected in the table I'm showing you on screen. I'll also say that I have never, not even once, paid my board, farrier, or lesson bills with a credit card. I Venmo my trainer straight out of my bank account, I Venmo'd my old barn owner, and I pay our farrier with a good old-fashioned check every single time. Most of his vet care, excluding some of the injections, has been put on credit cards, but most of it has been immediately paid off. If you do the math, $680 per paycheck times 26 paychecks per year is $17,680 annually, which is approximately what I've spent the last 3 years. On a monthly basis, I assume $450 for board, $170 for farrier, $240 for 4 lessons total, $200 for supplements, and $300 for vet bills, since we usually see our vet every 6 weeks for chiropractic adjustments and anything else that needs doing. So what does all of this mean? Well, it means that I would easily have a whole house and a new car by now if I didn't own him. It means I need to not give in to the FOMO when it comes to showing in 2026 and limit myself to a few competitions that I actively plan for in advance, and only allow myself to enter them in the first place if I'm on track with my debt payoff plans and have the money set aside. My debt payoff journey is taking as long as it is in large part because I spend the equivalent of a mortgage on him every month. I regret the unnecessary choices that I made that landed me in the financial situation that I'm in, but I don't regret him or what I've done for him in the slightest. This is the part where the debt payoff journey is real and human, because sometimes it's not about the math. It's about the fact that I'm my horse's person and that he knows what my car looks like and waits at the edge of the field for it when I haven't been to the barn for a while. It's about the fact that we trust each other after everything we've been through together. What this doesn't mean is that I'll sell him. I meant it when I committed that he'll be with me for the rest of his life. That's a big reason why his racing trainer sold him to me in the first place. Even if I wanted to sell with his medical history, it would be difficult. It also doesn't mean that I'll skimp on his veterinary care. I ask so much of him, and I refuse to let him be uncomfortable just to save a few $100s. I also live in fear of the PSD coming back because it was a chronic problem before we met our current vet and farrier, which caused a cascade of other physical issues. Most of the injections we've had to do are to calm down areas of his body that were under stress that they shouldn't have experienced due to him compensating for the pain in his legs. I pay the $200 twice a year for farrier films to check his angles in order to avoid thousands of additional dollars in regular joint injections in the future. I don't expect this to make sense to any of you unless you're a horse person yourself, and that's okay. That's not why I made this video. I made it to be honest and to explain why it is that I spend what I do on him on a monthly basis. I tried to quit riding twice while I was in college, and it did not go well for me in terms of both my physical and mental health. Even if I didn't have him, I still probably wouldn't have money, because if I didn't have horses, I'd probably be working on a PhD right now and living off a grad student stipend instead of working in accounting. Anthropology is my other love in this life, and the only reason I didn't pursue it beyond my BA is because I love these 1,200-pound walking disasters waiting to happen. Maybe I'll start doing regular audits of just my horse spending and posting them on here so you guys can see how I'm trending in that area. Those definitely would not be this long. Let me know what you think of that idea. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I will do my best to explain in as friendly a way as I can for non-horse people. And if you are horse people, then great. Welcome. I don't know if I'm glad or sorry that we're in this club together. Anyway, I hope that this was enlightening and informative for you guys, and that it adds some color to why I'm not cutting expenses or changing things in this particular area of my budget. But like I said, I do understand if you don't really get it. I just ask that you accept that it's something that's not going to change, barring something terrible happening to me, which, again, we hope it doesn't. Otherwise, I think that's it for me for now, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!